360 to Center is gladly sponsored by A&M Rentals for all your golf cart, scooter, and bicycle rental needs. Hello, and welcome to another episode of 360 to Center, where we talk about everything Conch baseball. I'm Crush, my co-host Ralphie Henriquez. Ralphie, how you doing tonight?
Crush, what up, brother? How you doing? I mean, I'm good. It's cold down here.
Yeah. It's a little chilly up here. I'm just outside
Where are
of
we at in the
Atlanta.
country? You're in Atlanta,
Just
you said?
outside of Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 39 right now, so
Oof.
it'll get down to 29. It
Yeesh.
says tonight, so I'll be out of here at 4 a.m. and heading back towards the warm.
Need to get you one of them heated blankets. You know what I'm saying? You got to plug it in, get all.
Oh, there's plenty of heat in this studio.
What
Who we got on tonight, Crush?
what does he not have in that truck? I mean, my God, he's got his
Hey,
studio.
you
He's got
know,
a heater or something. Jeez.
Yeah,
Mr. Rick,
yeah.
I've learned there ain't too many gadgets that Crush don't have.
Right, he's pretty good at that. Yeah.
Well, for those who are watching, I don't even know if I have to give the actual introduction because that voice says it all. But we have a special guest with us tonight, voice of the Conchs on the radio, Mr. Rick Lopez. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Tony. Ralphie, thank you very much for having me on the show. What you guys are doing with this podcast is so awesome and chronicling the history of our great game and baseball. And it's just an honor for me to be with you guys today. And let you guys, somebody else interview me for a change. Yeah.
That's what I'm
Well,
saying. I'm excited about this.
yeah, that's what I told Ralphie. That's going to be the name of the show, is interviewing the interviewer. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked about it. We're actually going to do our first 360 to Center fashion report, and we're with our visiting guest Rick. Looks like he has a red T-shirt on with KW letters. Hair looks dead. Tan's on spot. I can't see his socks. I can't see his stirrups, but I'm sure he's wearing them.
Tony, and you know.
Well, we wanted to do our best version of a fashion report.
In a past life, so yes, I know all about it. People love that. They love the fashion report. There's no other broadcast in the country that you will get a fashion report during a baseball game, but ours.
Right. And it makes sense over the radio. Obviously, you can't see, so you get to kind of visualize exactly what the guys are wearing. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, Tony. I mean, that's the whole idea in radio is, you're painting that picture in the listener's mind of just about every little thing you possibly can do, whether it's from the uniforms to what the shape of the field, wherever you're at, you try to paint that picture, and we have a lot of fun with that with the fashion report.
Yeah. It looks like from what I think I just talked to you the other day. This is or coming up on 27 years of covering Conchs, correct?
Yeah, I started it in 1998 when I had come back from New York. Todd Swafford had brought me in, and Todd had been doing the games with his brother, Timothy Lee, for a long time. But Todd wanted to shake things up in the booth and asked me to come join him. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's crazy to think now. Yeah, I'm going into my 27th year of calling, I think, pretty much every single Conch baseball game since 1998, and what a ride it has been, including 2 state championships. I called Ralphie's title in 2005, and I want to get another one. I mean, we've been so close, but yeah, 20. And I don't know what the record is for someone that the longest longevity in this program, but I got to be right up there at 27 consecutive years with the baseball team. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Judd, if you're listening, that's another stat that you're going to have to add to the books. Another record.
Always updating. They'll never be finished.
That was his retirement gadget that he gets to play with, I think, amongst a lot of other things. But
He's really done a
he
great job at that. And kind of like, what
yeah,
you guys are trying to do with this podcast and go back and look at the history and get all the different guys that were involved and what's happened. I mean, Judd has taken, great lengths to try to get this right. Uh, how old is the program? 75, 80 years or whatever, and going back and doing all the research and trying to get it right. And, there's always something you're going to miss. But Judd keeps trying to make sure that he has those accurate stats and who has the most hits in a season, who has the most home runs, who has the most strikeouts, all that thing. And you think about it, the history of our program, all the great players that have come through here. There's a lot of stats to look at, and to try to make sure you get that right. I tip my cap to Judd because he's the only one I knew who was willing to take on that project.
right. Yeah, it's fascinating. I'll find things, or Ralphie will find things, or somebody will send us something, and I always try to lead with Judd. Don't get mad at me. I'm just trying to share this with you, and he never does. He's always real open to it, and he's real good with it.
Judd's been my partner for, I think we're going on our 17th year together, and there's something to that. There's something to baseball on the radio and those familiar voices that when you turn on a Conch baseball game, you're going to get me, and you're going to get Judd, and we're going to do our darndest to entertain you. And I think we've done that over the years, and all the time I was with Todd prior to that. When you have a team and you have that longevity, look, Tony, wherever you're at, you're putting the game on, and what people put on the Conch baseball game, they get that familiar voice, and that voice that hopefully they know and love. They all love it, but
Yeah,
hopefully that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
and you said you guys are partners, and it's kind of funny because out in California, when you walked up to the rental car place, they actually thought you guys were partners, correct?
That is right. That's a funny story.
It actually is.
When we got into yeah, it's good. And folks, and we did tell it on the radio and all that because it's just so silly and fun. But when I we got into the John Wayne Airport there in Irvine, California, or Orange County. Yeah, it's a long flight, as you know, out to LA, and we go and get our rent a car, and when we're down there getting the rent a car, the guy that was renting the car thought that Judd and I were a couple, and that we could get a discount as a couple. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, no, we're not a couple. And he says he was very coy with us, like, really? I'm like, no, we're not. We're not a couple. And if we were, you don't think I could do better than this guy? And then just nonchalantly, as I'm filling out the paperwork, the guy said, "Well, where are you guys from?" And I said, "Oh, well, we're from Key West." And he looked at me and said, "Uh huh."
Sure, you're not.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, Ralph, I heard that story. Literally, I feel like I was I don't know if you told that you started to tell it at the restaurant, Maggiano's, and then
We told it in the broadcast. Yeah. We tell everybody. Yeah.
that's good
I
stuff.
know it got
You
It was funny. It was really
it
funny the
did.
way this guy was. He thought we were a couple, and we were going to get a discount as a couple renting this car. Yeah.
That is good stuff. Um, you got now. You actually came down to Key West. What year? Because you were I don't know, Navy, Army, or military kid, correct? Originally.
Yeah, Marine Corps. Yeah, I moved here
Okay.
over just celebrated our 40th anniversary in Key West this August. We moved to Key West my senior year in August of 1984. We pulled right into the Fly Navy building, and I immediately went over to the high school and went right to football practice with the Conchs. Yeah, so 40 years ago, over 40 years ago now, that we've called Key West home, and it was the best thing that ever happened to my family. You know, as a military kid, you're moving all the time. You move every 2 or 3 years. And my dad was a lifer in the United States Marine Corps. He did 33 years in the Corps, and we got very lucky that we moved here. We almost moved to Japan. He got orders there. My mom said, "No way, leaving the country," with Rick going into his senior year of high school, and then the Key West post came available for my dad, and he jumped on that. And you know, my parents have retired here, and I've made my life here, and it is the best place in the world. I've been all over the world, and was so lucky, guys, that we got to move to Key West. And I wasn't one of those military people that just came and went. Obviously, I've stayed here. I've raised my family here and my kids, and now got grandkids coming through the system. And I'm just so fortunate to be in Key West. And I never once regretted that. My only regret, and I still say to my parents, is what took us so long to get here? Why did I have to spend 1 more year in Lejeune in North Carolina? If I could have moved here my junior year, who knows? Who knows if I would have survived? It was crazy back then, but it was just. And I say it when I'm doing talks and speeches and stuff like that. It's true. I went from like Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. That's the way I felt.
Right.
Why would anyone ever want to leave here if you can stay here? I mean, it's the greatest place in the world, and so fortunate to be a Key Wester and a Conch in my own right. So yeah, very proud.
And when you came in '84. That was you said you went straight into football. That was a pretty eventful year, because right after the football season, the '84 baseball wins the state title, correct?
Well, they had already won. They won in '84. I graduated in 1985, and they had that great team, the Tragus team with all those great players in '84. So they had just won the state championship, and there was some things that I haven't talked a lot about it in my life because it was a pretty crushing thing for me at the time. But I got cut from the baseball team. And when I went out for the team, I had played 3 years at my high school in North Carolina. I was a decent player. I wasn't great by any means, nowhere close to the ability, Ralphie, as you know, is my son, Tony, who was a really good ball player. But you know, I played football and had a great year playing on the football team, and we had a few of the guys on the football team that were on the baseball team as well. Joey Gandolfo was our quarterback. Alvin Wims was.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, Joey. No, Joey was my quarterback. He was
yeah.
A few more times, he might still have the record for most passing yards in a single season. But he was always throwing to James Howard. So, but I was always open. Nobody was covering me for some reason. I don't know. But James Howard was on that team. Alvin Wims, who also, the three of us wide receivers of that wide receiver core of Howard and Wims and myself. Theodore Thurston was on that receiving core as well, but he didn't play baseball. And I was really good friends with Al Del Valle at the time. You guys know Al. He threw a perfect game in 1985. Went out for the team, and just I didn't know that there were some things working against me at that time. One, I was a senior. Nobody knew who I was really outside of I had just moved to town and played football. Two, and I didn't think about it at the time because it just kind of hurt, was that I wasn't going to take the place of a kid that grew up his entire life in Key West for an outfielder with any power. I wasn't a home run hitter or anything. I was a singles and doubles hitter. And I wasn't going to take a kid that spent their whole life here. I felt I did really good in the 2-week tryout. We played 2 games. I went. What did I go for? I went 10 at bats. Oh, I had 6 hits, 2 walks in the 10 at bats. And I guess I should have known something was working against me. And I got Freddie Varela was pitching one of those games, and I got a hit up the middle, and I'm over at first base. And he tries to pick me off over at first, and I'm laying on top of the bag when they tag me. I'm laying on the bag. Sidney Mockingbird Kerr is right there, and he calls me out. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I'm laying on the bag. I'm safe. No, you're out. Go back to the dugout. You should have known it right there. Fast forward years later, Sidney Mockingbird Kerr obviously becomes one of my dearest and closest friends, and I was there for did his eulogy and everything at his funeral and all that, and hosted his funeral ceremonies. But at the time, you're 18 years old, 17, 18 years old, and baseball's your whole world. And I got cut, and it was something that took me a while to get over with, because when you play ball, you guys know, and everybody watching this, it will end at some point. And it felt like for me, I got my knees cut out from under me, and I never was able to, play ball again. And it stopped right there. But the funny thing is, as life goes on and the way life works out, I end up making the team, and I become the voice of the team, and I'm as much a part of Conch baseball as I think most people have ever been. So I'm very proud of that. I wish I could have still played, but I got to tell you, when my son won it all in '05 with Ralphie, was one of the great moments of my life. And it's funny how things come full circle. Yeah, on you. So yeah, I got cut.
I didn't. Maybe I did know that, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that he played on the team Ralphie. I did not know that. Okay,
Rick, so when you came here so you started in '98. What made you get into broadcasting?
Well, I
What
started
made you
after
get
high
into this
school.
whole world?
Well, that's a funny thing, because I couldn't play baseball anymore, but I always thought that I wanted to be I wanted to be in ball, and if I couldn't play, I could talk about it for sure, because I know the game and have fun with it. And Tony's obviously a little older than you, Ralphie, but you'll remember. Tony, back in the early '80s and in the mid '80s, we had WGN down here. I had it in North Carolina as well, and my hero was Harry Carey, who's called the Cub
Harry
games.
Carey.
And I would come home. They were day games. I would watch him. I was so invested in that '84 Cubs team. I can't even tell you. I could tell you their whole roster right now. But watching him work, that guy was having so much fun. And I said, you know what? If I can't play, I could talk about it. I think I could do this. In 1986, right after high school, that year after I graduated, I got my first radio job at the old FM 107 on Southern Street, and those were the days when you had somebody had to be in the studio all the time. And I just went in there to apply to do the American Top 40 Casey Kasem show that they were running on Saturdays. And I went in there, and the guy, the general manager at the time, was he's like, I think you got something, and I want you to do an audition tape for me. And I said, okay. Well, I wasn't prepared to do anything, and I went in there, and guys, it had to be the worst audition tape ever. I don't even know if it stuck to the tape. It was that bad. It was horrible, just horrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And I get done with the interview. I go home, and I get a call like an hour later, and the guy's name was Joe Russo. He was the general manager. He says, Rick, that's the greatest audition tape I ever heard. I'm immediately putting you on midnight to 6 starting tonight. I'm like, what?
Wow.
What I didn't realize was he needed just anybody to come in there and do the midnight to 6 show, because he was covering it for somebody who quit. So that's how I got it. And I was 19 years old, and I thought, and I was on my way. So yeah, so that was
That's a
pretty
good story.
That's how I got into
Is
broadcasting.
that the
Yeah.
what was that the same Joe Russo that used to ref or basketball
No,
games?
it's different. It's a different Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
different guy.
Okay.
Mhm. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
That's kind of I feel like
So,
yeah, that's a similar story to Howard Stern in a sense. I mean, he was kind of hired in somewhat the same way, put on a overnight shift that thought he was hitting the big time and then grew from there.
yeah, I mean, that guy really sold me a bill of goods. Just, but I thought I was the greatest thing ever. And my DJ name back then was Rockin' Rick Allen. That was what my DJ was. Yeah,
We
yeah,
might have to get you a jersey with
pretty
that on the
silly,
back.
pretty silly.
Rockin' Rick.
Lot there, and then I moved to New York, and then I was in New York, and I worked for a couple of organizations up there, but in the sports industry, and then had the chance to come back home and got right back into the radio, and then by 1987, 1997. I joined Clear Channel, and Todd Swafford brought me in and said, "Hey, I would love to have you work with me and do the games." And it was always a dream of mine to do it, and that's how I joined Todd, starting in the '98 season, and have never looked back from it. With a couple of other
The,
Crush, I don't
opportunities,
know.
like
yeah.
I said, yeah. Go ahead, Ralphie. Yeah,
Crush, I don't know if you know this. I remember when I was Rick could tell me the year. He was when 17 was working with Atlanta. He was in Danville, Virginia, and Rick was
yeah,
calling games for the Braves minor league team in Jamestown Jammers in
that
New
is
York.
correct.
Rick, I'm curious. How did you
2000.
end up there?
Okay, that was in 2000 and 2001 that I did those games for in the New York Penn League, which, interesting enough, you would end up playing in that league a few
Yeah, I
years
played
later.
there. Yeah,
We played for Brooklyn, and I after 3 years of doing the Conch games, I felt like, hey, I can do this. I'm really excited about pursuing this career, and I wanted to take it to the next level. And so I went to the big minor league meetings in 1999, 2000, right before the 2000 season, and I met with some different people, and I ended up getting hired by the Jamestown team, which was at that time an affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. And I was very successful there. I thought, you know, Ralph, you don't make any money doing that, but
no,
I was paving my way there, and I ended up getting one of my biggest fans, and a guy that was going to support me, and you need that in pro ball, was Dayton Moore. You know, Ralphie, you know Dayton. He was like
general
one of
manager.
the yeah, yeah. He was at the time, he was right before he took the Kansas City job as their vice president and general manager. He was a bigwig in the Braves minor league system, and he listened to all the games that I did, and he was just he had my back, and I was like, I'm on my way. And then after that second year, I had a couple of opportunities, including the Double A job in Wichita, and but I ended up turning that down and stayed home. Tony, my son, was getting ready to play ball at Key West High School, and I wanted to be there for that. I didn't want to leave during the middle of his seasons and all that, and I wanted to see how he would do. So I walked away from all that, and I sometimes I wonder, if I had just followed that path, where I would be today. Because when you go into pro ball, you could be the greatest broadcaster or whatever, but if you don't have people that help support you and like you and bring you along the way, then you could get stuck at a certain level. And I had a lot of support to keep rolling, but I decided to stay home, and I've never regretted it. I mean, I've been the voice of the Conchs here for so many years and done so many great things, so I still get to do all my broadcasting, and I'm good with that. Yeah.
Very
That's crazy.
cool.
I did not know that that's crazy that you all were up there. Your
There's
dad was coaching,
opportunities you
correct?
have in life, and yeah, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
now that's so long ago now. And I think and sometimes I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes I do think, like, what if I went to Wichita? Where would I be today? So I would have been moving up
You'd be in
the
Wrigley.
ranks, And Could have been, yeah. I feel good. I mean, I could play
Yeah,
the Marlins tomorrow. I mean, I could do that job.
Yeah, let's go.
I mean,
that's well. That's what I was
isn't
gonna
it
say. Is
fun and entertaining?
you don't need your legs, so age is nothing. You just need those pipes,
No,
and you have those.
listen, the best thing about being a broadcaster, I don't have to hit, I don't have to run, I don't have to catch that ball. All I got to do is talk. And then
Right,
if we lose, yeah, I
right,
feel bad we lose, but it's not like Ralphie who goes home if we lose and he can't sleep. I'll get some sleep.
Exactly.
right, right.
Speaking of a
Yeah.
game, Rick, is there one
Yeah.
game or one interview or one person that when you look back at Conch baseball, you're like, wow, like that's the one or that's the guy?
You know, Ralphie, that's a really tough question because I've called so many amazing games and moments in our history. Was it the 2017 season? I think, Ralphie, that we were playing in the district championship game against Gulliver at Alex Rodriguez Field there, and that game went 13 innings, and you had this unbelievable pitching performance by Stevie Wells, and Hugo Valdez came up with the game-winning hit
Oh,
that propelled us.
2014. Yeah,
Was
2014.
20?
Yeah.
Was that 2014, or was
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
little later? That was that
Yeah. I think
game,
Andy Perez hit the home run over the net there. And
right?
I think
Yeah,
that's the same year we're talking about.
there there's so many that, because I've done so many games that really jump out at you. I think back that first season, guys, in '98, and Tony, that was the tail end of that what I like to call
Yep.
that second golden age of conch baseball, the '90s, where you were such a big part of that, and going to all those championship games, and we won 3 out of 4. And that '98 team, and I could still see it today. And I joke with Ben Harrison when I see him. That ball hit down the right field line in that state championship game, and Ben is going and doing everything he can to go catch it, dives for it. This is what I think it was. This was the top of the 7th inning. We were winning by a run or whatever, and the ball, he dives for it and misses it, and that's going to be an inside the park home run. They're going to take the lead, and all the momentum is on their way. But there was a very unique feature at Legends Field, now George Steinbrenner Field, there in Tampa, where we played that game, where the right field bleachers or seats kind of jet out toward the line, and
Yep.
he dove for
Yep.
that ball. He missed it. That ball hops into the stands, ends up being a ground rule double. The next batter flies out to center field, and we win the game, and win that first state championship. And I thought, guys, after that first year, and that was a crazy year, by the way. That was Brooksy's first year as head coach. That they had to go on the road.
You guys kind of had a you kind of had a wild game of pace that year, which I hear you
Well,
called.
oh yeah, no, yeah. By the way, that's interesting you point that out, because that year changed the way the state baseball playoffs are now run, where the state decided they did not want 2 teams from the same district to play in the state championship game. If you go back to 1998, look at it there. That year in '98, we played pace 5 times. Five
5 times,
times.
yeah.
Two
Yep.
regular season games. We played in the district championship game. We also played them in that wild championship game at a spring break tournament in Boca Raton. And Khalil Green slid into second base. He broke their second baseman's head. It was a clean slide, but all heck broke loose, not only in the stands, but they came rushing at us in the booth, me and Swafford, having to push people out and pace people out of the booth, so upset about that play. But we ended up playing 5 times. The one time they beat us was in the district championship game that year, which forced that team to go on the road, and they won up at against Russ Milliken's team at Forest Hills in West Palm Beach. Then they had to go to Sebring. They won there. Then we had to go all the way up to Daytona Beach, won that game, and then went to Tampa and won the championship. So that one play where with Harrison has always stuck out with me. And that's baseball, right, guys? That baseball is a game that can give you the most ultimate highs in your life. that you can't find anywhere else. But it can also give you the most gut wrenching lows that you'll ever experience in this game. There's nothing quite like it. And that year we had the ultimate high. The 2005 team will always be really special to me because on that team, Ralphie, that was your team, obviously, and believe it or not, we're going to celebrate your 20th anniversary of that championship this year.
Yeah.
But my son Tony was the left fielder on that team, and watching the kids grow up through the
Great choice of names, by the way.
Tony was a good ball player. He was all state. He was really good, and
gotta say that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah.
Now you see where he's going.
They talk baseball. People call him Lopey is his name. But anyway, watching that team and what that team did, and if you look back at it, what that team did after really a bad trip to Georgia. We went on a spring break trip to Georgia. We had like 3 or 4 games scheduled there. We didn't play well. We ended up, in fact, the final game, for whatever reason, we didn't play. And we had to come back home. I don't know what Coach Enriquez said to that team. Ralphie, I don't know what was going on in the locker room. But from that moment on, I've never seen anything like it. That nobody, not one team, there wasn't a team in the country that would have beat that baseball team. They steamrolled their way to our 11th title in 2005. There wasn't a close game after that. Blew everybody out, and you had the pitching, you had the hitting, you had the defense. It all came together. And when you see that and watching what we did in Sarasota that year, and Chaz Spotswood throwing the no-hitter against Pensacola Catholic, and then Darrell Lewis coming back. And Ralphie, what did he give up? 1 hit, maybe 2? I don't even remember against Bishop Moore.
I think we gave up 1 hit the entire playoffs, pretty much.
We scored 7 runs in the first inning of that championship game. Good night, lights out, title. That team was pretty amazing to see and watch that one. So going back and looking at just recent history. 2 seasons ago, we're in the playoffs. We've got home field advantage. Anthony Leyres hits a grand slam in the second game of the.
I was listening right along.
Just one of the most exciting things you could ever imagine. And guys, I tell you, from that moment on, I would have put everything I had and put down that team would have won a state championship. And but it's baseball, right? The next game, right, we're at home again to go there. I mean, that team had everything. It had the pitching, it had the hitting, it had all of that stuff. And you think, there's 2,000 plus people in the game, but if a kid comes in who maybe have pitched in front of most people he ever pitched in front of is probably 30, that kid, right, that season, 2 years ago for Miami Sunset, he pitches the game of his life. We have all these great. Only one guy could figure him out. That was Jack Haggard, and we were just praying that he could get back to the plate in that 7th inning, and we end up losing 2-1. And you get the gut wrenching part of the game because it's a finality. It's over, and and I would have swore anything that team 2 seasons ago was going to win it all again. Yeah.
Have you, and I'm curious of this, have you and Todd, whether it be recently or at any point, ever sat down and compared moments? Like Rafi was just asking you, what was your moment? Because he got to follow us 96.
Yeah, I mean, Todd talks a lot about, some of the games, before I joined him. He talks about that 97 team that didn't win a state championship, but the job that Ralphie Sr. did managing that team, getting them all the way to the region championship. Yeah, we go back and we talk about stories, a lot of funny things that happened to us on our trips on the road and all that. And that's part of the fun of broadcasting, is being on the road and going to the other venues. Sometimes, I don't know where we're going to be broadcasting from. We've had some really weird spots to do baseball games. But now today, when we go home, I mean, I've got a beautiful booth now. It took 26 years, but I got it, and it's
Heck,
so good.
you got two booths. I mean, you
Yeah,
get to go on both sides. Uh, that's
yeah, but we
you
go back
definitely
and we
scored.
talk about that. We talk about the players and the guys that we have covered, and we talk about the guys that we didn't cover, and I think that's. I don't think it's just us guys. I think that's what makes our program so special, is our history and what's happened before. You won't see this at any other school. You're not going to find
No.
any other school that has its own radio station that covers every game, because what happened in 1953, what happened in 1958, 59, 69, that still matters here. People still
Yep.
talk about it. You can't go many days without somebody mentioning what Randy Sterling did in 69. And you look at, how did he strike out that many guys? I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And it's really remarkable when you think about it, where you have an island, 3x4, and we develop these kids. Nobody transfers in here. We're not giving out scholarships. It's all the kids that grew up together and that started playing ball over at Clayton Sterling, and that's the other thing that's so fun, is when we beat those private schools and those schools that just throw money and scholarships and all that around there, makes it so special. And that the fact that we have 11 state championships is really ridiculous. If you actually think about it, how hard
Yep.
is it to win just one? Just
Right.
one.
Yep.
Gulliver, with all those great players they brought in all those years, they have one title. One. We have
Yep.
11.
Yep.
That's crazy. Just if people would be just so happy if they could get just one. It's pretty amazing. It really is, when you stop and think about this program, its history, and that history means so much to all of us that are involved in this program, and pretty much everybody that goes and sits out there every Friday and Saturday night for a game.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
The people that come on here, I think I was telling this to Victor Gallardo the other day. When they start to talk about it and they start to remember it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it brings something else out in them that they haven't felt in a while, or they haven't felt in a long time, and then it catches fire. It literally does, and you can kind of see it in them, and it just goes on and on and on. And we say it, I don't know, we've said it probably, I don't know, 1,000 times on the show already, but it's just something you don't get anywhere else in the country, not for high school baseball.
No, you don't get
Real.
it anywhere. And I think one of the cool things that we have done over the last several years is the dinner on the diamond before we start the season. And those emotions come out. If you remember a couple of years ago, Christian Twyman, who I know has already been on this program, talking about his life here and how it molded him and the baseball program, and tears coming out of his
Yep.
eyes. Same with guys like Ben Harrison, other folks that have spoken there, and how much this means, how much it means to have been a Conch baseball player. And because you're in a
Right.
pretty elite fraternity if you put on that Conch uniform, because not everybody gets the chance to do that. And your part, once you do put on that uniform, you have a responsibility. You really do,
Right.
because you have a
Yep.
responsibility to the history of the program and the greatness of the program. And I think that's pretty interesting with our kids. They understand that. They understand what they're walking into. Who was on that field before them? That same field, the same location, the field may have changed, but Boog Powell hitting home runs over the old press box in the stadium. George Myra
Yep.
pitching there. And Santana. The names, the list goes on and on. They all played right in that same spot. And for so many of us, It could have been just yesterday that they were out there.
Yeah.
Crush, I think I need to hire Rick to come in and talk to the team here. I'm ready. I'm ready to run through a wall right now.
Well, Rick,
I'm ready. Put me in.
it's true what you say about the guys that are there now. I mean, I got to come in a lot more last year and be around those guys, and
Yeah.
I was just amazed of how they took me in, and they really uh the appreciation you actually see, like you get back the feeling from them, and that was pretty, because I thought, I'm going to come here and they're just going to be like, oh, this old timer or whatever else, and it was not that in any. It's pretty special, so it was definitely pretty cool to see, and the connection is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Crush,
that's
to go
it.
along with what you're saying, Rick, when did iHeart and TuneIn start?
Well,
When did you guys start doing that?
that started back when our radio stations were still part of Clear Channel. Listen, I go back, when I started with Todd. I mean, we had all we had were cell phones, and prior to me joining, Todd had to find phone lines at places to connect to. And we didn't, when I started, there was no internet broadcast. It was all terrestrial over the radio. On road games, we would pass the phone back and forth. To Todd would call the play, and then he'd pass me the phone, and I'd do the color and all that, pass it back to him. Uh, but as technology grew, we got that started with, you could listen to the games on the internet. At one point, we had a listen line, and a few Conch fans got the number, and they were calling the listen line, and our board ops and all that couldn't hear the game because people wanted, if they weren't in Key West, they couldn't hear the games. But then we went online, and with the website, and then iHeart came around, in that the phone apps came around in 2011, 2012ish, sometime in that time frame. And that changed the ball game, because you can listen and anywhere in the world. For an example, just 2 weeks ago, I was on a family trip to South Africa. My wife is from South Africa, and I missed I wasn't able to broadcast the final Conch football playoff game. Guys, I'm sitting in Cape Town, South Africa, at 2 in the morning on iHeartRadio, listening to the Conch football game. Judd was calling the game
I,
in my office. And it was like I was right there in the stadium. It is, technology is so cool, and the iHeart and the TuneIn apps have brought it to so many more people. It's very fascinating to see and hear from people that are listening all over the country and around the world. One of
right.
the stories that was really cool for me. Matthew Roberts, who played for the Conch baseball team. Ralphie, you played with Matthew and all that. When he was stationed in Afghanistan during our wars there in Afghanistan and Iraq, he used to bring all the guys together in their barracks there in Afghanistan, and that was part of their entertainment, listening to Conch baseball games. And
Wow.
it's pretty amazing how it touches so many folks. If you can't go to the ballpark, you know that you can tune in and listen and hear all the coverage and everything that we do. And that's been a great honor for me to be able to keep that going. What Todd had started, and when Todd went down back in '06 with the vertigo issues that he had, I needed to step up and keep it going, and that's what we've done. And it touches so many people, and I hear it all the time, and it always makes me feel real good how important having these baseball games just on the radio, or if you're listening on iHeart, or listening on the internet, because not everybody can be at the game. And now we're live streaming the games, and they're connecting. You guys are connecting the live stream with our broadcast, so you can watch it there. You can listen to us on the live stream. You can on the radio and all that. And who else does that? You don't find that anywhere.
And some you say some people can't come to the game. Some people don't have the luxury of being down there in Key West. I'm all over the country, so
Exactly.
I know there's lots of people that are tuning in from Tallahassee, tuning in from Atlanta. So I mean, it's, if Ralphie got to live one year like I do, he would have my camera system back up and running. If it was just 1 year, if he had to go off or
Rush,
be
Rush,
forced to, he would.
I remember. It's a true story. I never told anybody this. 2014, I think we were in Akron, Ohio. I caught the first game of a doubleheader. That night was the regional playoff game that they had at North Broward Prep. And I'm saying to myself, the bullpen's out in right field. I can't come in the clubhouse. I can't check the score. I can't see what's going on. And I knew I wasn't going to catch a second game. I'm like, I'm doing it. And back then, they didn't have the wireless headphones. So I put the jacket on, put the hoodie on. I'm like, yo, if I get released tonight, I'm going down listening to Conch baseball. And I remember the first 4 or 5 innings, I had my headphone on, the hood on, and I'm listening to Rick acting like I'm watching the second game of a doubleheader in Akron, Ohio. And then obviously that game ended with a walk-off homer, and it was deflating, and Rick knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was crushing. That game there, we won that game. We were back in the Final Four. That was a region championship game at North Broward Prep, and they had like the smallest ballpark I've ever seen. And we hit a couple of home runs, but they hit like 4 or something like that, and ended up beating us. And again, that's that 2014 team was really good too. And you thought, oh, just get past them, and we were gonna win it all. It's funny listening to that story, and I mentioned like Sidney Mockingbird Kerr earlier when he called me out at first base in that game. Sidney and I became immensely close. He was one, and he used to, when he retired and he moved up to Ocala. Every game, he would send me notes on what I need to be talking about and what Rick, you got to do this and say this and do all that. He was always there for me and all that. And yeah, that happens all the time, and it make everything that you do, the hard work that goes into it, producing it and getting it all taken care of, and you hear those things, and it really does the heart good, because you know that you're doing something that people really want and really love, and they love our baseball program. There's no question. No question.
That year, I think, Ralph, 14 wasn't that the year that Blanco and everybody went up to that away game? That's when Randy was in the car. That's when all of our videos started. I think that was the game they lost.
You guys had catcher's mask on in restaurants and working on your pop times.
Yeah. Blanco was.
But that's what makes Tom baseball so special.
Yep.
People like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, you just look.
That's why I've done.
Guys, look no further than that. Our second round playoff game this past year at Cardinal Gibbons. I mean, what did they have there, Ralphie? They may have had 30 people at the game. Yeah. We had like 300 Conchs showed up for that game. And it was in all technical purposes, it was a home game for us, certainly crowd wise. The field was, and there were some other things that were brewing before that game that maybe caused a lot of people to go. But I remember, and going back to that, what you're saying about that 2014 season, Sarasota had just got the Final Four back. And they were salivating at the fact that Key West was one game away from going back to Sarasota. Right. Because in the years prior, Tony, did you win your titles in Sarasota?
95, 96. Yep.
Right. Ralphie, you won your title there in 05. Right. They were so excited that Key West was potentially coming back, meant upwards of 2,500 to 3,000 people coming to at least 2 baseball games. We lose. Yep. North Broward Prep showed up with about 25 people. They were not in Sarasota. They were rooting for us to get there because the passion and the love of the program. Again, it's like nowhere else, guys. It really isn't.
I don't know if you guys saw that really cool interview with Felix Ong that University of Florida just put out.
Yep.
And and Felix talks about how the culture in Key West is very similar to University of Florida in Gainesville, and how baseball brings everybody together. And I mean, it was really cool. Felix is a really smart kid and really mature, and to see that, like, you can almost feel it, and that's just what makes kind of this whole thing. And I mean, Rick, I don't know. I mean, how many episodes you've watched? Every time Tony has put one of these things out, that you see
Mhm.
6 to 10,000 people are tuning in and watching this, and you're
Mhm.
like, this is crazy. Like, people are interested and people love conch baseball.
Well, they
You
do,
know,
and there's
I
a
got a I got.
go ahead,
Go ahead,
Tom.
Rick. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, to Ralphie's point there, there's a tie that binds it all together, and it combines generation after generation, and people. Hey, look at Jack Kearns, right? This is a guy that
It's
has
the man.
no ties
I don't know
to
if Tony
high
knows
school.
him.
I don't know if you met the
Mm-mm.
traveling road
Yeah.
secretary. This is a guy who just loves baseball and retired and came down here. He's at every game. I can't get rid of him. But I mean,
Crush,
it
he's been in
is.
my minor league games.
Oh yeah.
He
He
showed
goes
up in
to.
Brooklyn. He showed up all over the country. This guy just pops in.
There is a
Let's go
passion
grab
that
a beer later. Yeah.
there is a passion that people have, whether you're from here or maybe you've moved here and you like baseball and you want to come out and be part of something special. And I think that's what you feel every time you go to a conch baseball game. There's something special going on here. It is special. A slow night is 500 people at the ballpark. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. And it is that tie that binds the generations together, whether you played or you had a kid that played or you have grandkids that are going through the system. It it will always be. Things will change in our town like you can't believe. Everybody, you've been around for a long time. Key West has changed so much. But one thing that has never changed is this conch baseball program, its commitment to excellence, and its history of this program. And it's just such been an honor to be part of it in my own little way.
A big
Rafi,
way.
I was gonna ask you because it kind of had to do with when Rick said that Sarasota was mad about not having Key West come back just for the fan perspective. But
They lost a
last year
lot of money.
when
They lost a lot of
oh
money
yeah,
that year.
yeah, last year whenever it came about to go into the to get into that California tournament, from what I
Mhm.
understand, that was basically like an invite only or top teams of the country, whatever. Did we kind of get in because of that whole Key West, not bringing the fans, but just like it's a different, people know about Key West even if they're not in the high rankings. They've always been known as a baseball town. Did it have anything to do with that?
Well,
Honestly,
I know.
Crush, when
Yeah, go ahead, Ralph. Yeah.
I know when we had reached out originally, one of the key things were that we went out there in 1996, right?
Six, yep,
And
96,
yeah, and
96.
yeah, and here we are 30 years later or 20 years later going back out there, and we thought it'd be cool to it was like my dad's first and second year at QS High School, and to be able to go back there again on the backside of his career would be something really cool and special for everybody.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
And
it
Rick,
was. To that point,
that
though.
hotel was 2 miles away
Yeah, but to your point
from
about
where we stayed.
from where we stayed, what do you mean? What? I'm sorry.
In '96, from where we stayed, our team
Oh,
hotel,
in
it was only
'96, you
two
guys went and
miles.
played in the Dome.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because I looked it up on the maps. It was only 2 miles away. It's bizarre.
But what's interesting about your original question here, the invite only, that was North Carolina, the
Oh yeah.
USA baseball
Yeah,
tournament. Now
yeah.
that they only invite the top programs in the country to come play in that event, and what an amazing experience that was for our team to be
Oof,
able to go there. Remember, we weren't
the
planning on
best.
going to North Carolina last year, but once that invite came,
Oh,
you have to accept it because it is such a prestigious thing to be invited to. And we went up there and we did really well. We won the last two games, and I felt like that helped propel that team to the run they made to winning the district title and so close to getting back to a region championship. But that event you have to be invited to. There's you can't like, oh, we'd like to
Right.
play here. Can we get in? No, the USA Baseball has to invite you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a thing, right, Rafi? I mean, y'all were basically invited for a unique program that has a or what was it? If it wasn't
I think it helped to have three Power Five arms
right,
Yes.
coming off
okay,
of
Mhm.
back-to-back seasons with 20 wins. You won 46 games in 2 years, and
Yep.
having these three high-profile arms definitely helped. I mean, because ultimately we were pretty young position player-wise, obviously last
right.
year.
We
I
were.
almost wish we had this year's offense with last year's pitching, with Anthony and Felix and Jacob um, but shoot, this year's team's going to be exciting. We're going to have some guys step up on the mound that people least expected, and we're going to have some pretty
Well,
exciting bats.
Ralphie, that's the whole thing, right? And I say it at the beginning of every year. Who's going to be the next guy up? Who's the next guy
Hmm.
that's going to come and be a star? We had all that great that pitching there the last 3 4 years on the team. Who there's always somebody you may not think of that's going to come up and have and start leading this team every year. That happens, and it's always fascinating to see who the next guy up is. And this year, the pitching we're going to see who's the next guy up. Who's going to? There's some big shoes to fill there, but I promise you
Somebody
guys,
always rises.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody's going to do it, and we're going to win a lot of
yeah,
baseball games. Yeah.
no doubt. I'm excited. I'm excited. We got a really good young team, and the future the next 2 or 3 years are going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's it. It's just it's always isn't it fun to go to the ballpark? It's just fun. I mean, I've got to run 7 radio stations. I got to deal with all the different employees and issues and things of breaking down and selling and all that stuff. But once I get to go to the ballpark, there's nothing better. There just isn't, and it is that escape that people want and that escape into conch baseball, and it's still going so strong, and
We're about 7 weeks away,
Can
so get ready.
can you believe
can you
that? I
can you
mean,
guys stop
February's going to be
rubbing it
here.
in so much?
Exactly.
It is.
I know we're going to
I
see you
mean,
sometime. You can listen, Tony. I'll have
Don't
it
worry.
all for you.
Don't
oh
worry.
yeah, oh yeah. I'm gonna be down there a couple
Rick,
times.
he's already been told no helicopters, no semis, no extracurriculars.
That's a
Just come in
lie.
and buy a ticket.
That's a lie. My main thing is getting down there. I have not done opening night since 1996, so I've already committed to
It's
doing
always
it. I
special
don't care what else I'm doing.
part of it. And that's really special. You were there last year for the dinner on the diamond,
Dinner
and
time. Yeah.
we had amazing night that night, and that I love that night because it brings so many of us together, and you hear all the speeches and all the guys talking about their time here in Key West, and it gets you pumped up for the season. And then opening night,
Yeah.
you know what, it doesn't matter what level you're at. The opening night is a great night, and all the possibilities lay in front of you of what the season can be. And I'm definitely excited to start year 27, calling every one of those games.
27.
Awesome.
Well, hopefully
So
27 brings
let me
12.
tell you how long, guys, how long I've been covering conch baseball. Just put this in perspective. Last year, when Augie Davila stepped up to the plate for his first at bat, he is the first child of a former player that I called on the team.
Right.
His
Right.
dad,
Yeah,
Marcus
I heard that.
Davila, yeah, was on the team when I first those first 3 years, '89 through 2000. Marcus, of course, a great pitcher and unbelievable player. And then how far it's come around now? His son is playing, and I'm calling
Yep.
his son. That's how long I've been doing this, as you can see
And
by the
before you
games.
know it, four more championships and about 10, 15 more years, you're gonna
Take
be
it.
calling Augie's son.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe my
Uh,
grandson, when he gets up there, hopefully,
there you
he'll
go.
make the team in a few years. Yeah. So, but yeah,
Well,
it's pretty amazing when I stop and think about it. I mean, that's a long time, and it's been so much fun. As I just said, I mean, just going to the ballpark and covering the Conchs is there's nothing better I could ever imagine doing in my career. I've won a Marconi Award, and that was a huge deal. But nothing is more special to me than when I'm calling those games. I just love every second, telling every little story, and I just it's just so much a part of
Maybe with the
who I am as a person. Yeah, yeah.
maybe with the exception of sitting in the same booth as Harry Carey and maybe calling one game there.
That would have been pretty cool because I actually back in September I got to go to Chicago. I had a first trip
I was
to
just there.
Yeah, and I went to Wrigley Field was like one of those bucket list places for me, and I went to the final game of the regular season. Got to see the Cubs, and what a cool place. Got pictures with the statue of Harry Carey and all that, and it meant so much to me. Like I said, I mean, I was so into those Cubs because of Harry Carey in those days, and just having the chance to walk into those hallowed grounds, and much like the Rex is hallowed grounds here because it is there's so much history in that there, and you feel it when you walk into a place like Wrigley Field or Rex Leach Field. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I was just in Chicago day before yesterday. It was pretty cool. I flew the drone over Wrigley Field
did you really?
and realized, yeah, I realized about 20 minutes into it that I was not filming.
If you ever get a chance, go because it's a special place. I don't know about the White Sox.
Yeah, I've got to see a game there.
Any desire to go see the White Sox, but I want to go see the Cubs.
Yeah, I've been to both, and man, what a difference in crowd. Yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
But man, Rafi, that's pretty cool once again. Hearing these things, especially from someone that's been doing 27 years and has watched every game over the last 27 years. Definitely a special thing.
Every game that Ralphie played in, every game that Ralphie Enriquez played in, and
have you ever missed a game?
I missed a couple, but pretty much every game you played, there have been things that have come up over the 27 years that I may have missed a game here or there, but pretty much every game. You know what?
Last year you had your wife's surgery.
Right. So I missed the one game. Last year my wife had surgery. Yes, I did miss a game there. But I remember that one year when Ralphie was playing, I missed it. And just a quick story. My son, Tony Lopez, hadn't hit a home run. Do you remember that field at Ransom Everglades, and they had the tree out in right field or whatever?
Yes, he hit it in the tree in right field. Yeah,
he hit it into the tree. It's a home run, and I missed it. And Tony hit one for his first home run.
True story. That's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. You can't go back to Game Changer back then and get the highlights.
But see, that's the other thing. We're going to be celebrating these championships coming up this year, and we always do such a great job with that. And it's crazy to think now it's 20 years ago that the 05 team won it. Tony, the 95 championship, that we'll celebrate that this year as well. And I mean, that's
55.
Who does these things? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
Can you believe it, Ralphie? It was 20 years ago that you guys won the team. It doesn't seem that long ago, does it?
No, not at all. It's going by so quickly. I know when Tony had called me a couple of days ago and told me that you were coming on the show, I was like, I was excited because I feel like everybody knows you as interviewing the people. People really don't know much about you, and like now being able to hear some of these stories and to hear why you got into broadcasting and how it all started from your show at midnight, like things like that you never even think about or like. I don't know, Crush. I was excited to hear this one.
Yeah,
and now you see Rick in a different way.
Right. I'm in 100% agreement with that.
Cool.
See what it can all lead to? They just needed somebody to go into it and punch the button, and it's led to all this. all these years
There's some
later.
crazy guy that drives a semi that wants to start a Conch baseball show.
Hey, I had to do overnight shifts sometimes too, you know.
Yes.
Well,
But you got
What
it.
you guys are
Rick,
doing, but real quick, guys, before I know we probably running long here, what you guys are doing, I'm really proud of both of you guys, and and preserve it because people will be able to go back, for however long, and getting these stories down and hearing from the different generations of players and people like myself. I think it is what you guys are doing is really great. I love it. You guys have had so many great shows. I just want to thank you for not asking me to be on the show where you guys were picking the best position players of all time.
that was a fun one and a tough one.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
get me in on that one.
yeah,
Too many great players. You're all great.
yeah, yeah. And it was impossible to get everybody in. I mean, but we wanted to make a fun thing out of it, and we did the best we
I
could.
get it. But I didn't want to be on that show.
Yeah. It was definitely the hot seat. Well, good deal. Well, Rick, I thank you for coming on. Ralphie just thanked you. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, you know what, and you got to give Wise crap. He didn't come up with a question. I texted him twice. Like, oh man, no.
I asked him live on the air on Conchs Live tonight.
Yep.
And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to tell you what my question is. I'm going to send it to Tony." I'm like,
all right.
give it to
So
Jeff.
you know what that means? That means one of these games this year, he's going to have to eat some more chocolate. I mean, that's just what's going to have to be done, and he's not going to be able to choose.
That's a whole other. So many of those crazy stories, making him eat a piece of Kilwin's chocolate for every strikeout.
Yeah.
I hope he eats 10 a night.
Yep. That night. That night, Big Ralph and Dee Dee's rent almost did not get paid just from the amount of chocolate that Judd had to eat.
I think that night Anthony Layers struck out like 14 or 15 batters, and he had to eat a piece of Kilwin's chocolate. That's classic radio. That's some of the fun stuff we do on our podcast. Yeah.
That is good stuff. Well, Rick, we really thank you and thank everybody else for listening and watching. We appreciate everything that you guys send in and the comments and the shares. We greatly appreciate it. And Ralphie, thank you for taking your time out. We keep it going. And Rick, I will probably see you soon, but if not, I'll definitely be talking to you soon. So thanks again. We're going to go ahead and
all the games. Tony, real quick, all the games you can listen on the Zone 97.7 when you're in Key West, online at thezone977.com. And if you get the iHeart Radio or TuneIn apps, those apps are free. Just download it into your phone, type in WAVK or the Zone, and take the Conchs with you wherever you go in the world. And we'll have all the coverage for you.
And now you even have another app, the Key West Athletic app, right? You can listen to you guys through that.
To it. You can go right to the Key West Athletic app and hit the Zone. We're right on that, and for everything that we do.
I'm a good learner, Rick. I'm a good learner. I listen to all your promotions, and I picked up on that one.
I gotta say, you do. It's so much fun. Keep up the good work. What you guys are doing. Yeah.
Thank you. We will, and thank you guys again. And we're gonna go ahead and say 360 is out. Thank you guys.
Later, brother.